We covered the James Bond posters of the 1960s already, so it's time to move on to the James Bond posters of the 1970s and look for the hidden gems and sexual content of these posters. So let's go. Hi, this is Dan.
And Tom.
And we're going to dive deep into these posters right now. But we're getting some help on this. We're bringing back a friend of the show, Bill Koenig of the Spy Command, to provide more insight. Bill joined us on our earlier episodes on Hitchcock's Notorious and The Man Who Knew Too Much. Welcome back, Bill. Great to have you.
Well, it's great to be here. Thanks very much.
All right. Here we go.
Okay, Bill, your blog, The Spy Command, covers all things about spies in entertainment, not just James Bond, but other spies in TV, print, and movies. And you've had a few posts about some of the James Bond posters that caught our attention. Can you talk about some of those posts and what was interesting to you about them?
Well, earlier this year that Robert McGinnis, who did a number of Bond posters, passed away. And he was, he had a very distinctive style. The New York Times even noted his passing with an obituary that led off with the Bond posters, but he did a lot of paperback covers of detectives and such. The posters, for us old timers, we still look back with fondness at Bond posters. They were kind of larger than life, like the movies were. So, yeah, it's just, it's a very distinctive style. Plus, the artwork for the posters were often used on the soundtrack albums. So
Right.
I have a number of those as well.
So you have this blog where you talk about all things spy entertainment. How does somebody find you?
The URL is hmssweblog.wordpress.com. The blog once upon a time was called the HMS weblog, which is reflected in the URL, but it's been Spy Command for quite some time now.
All right. Hey, make sure you stick around, everybody, to the end and subscribe to our show right now before you forget. All right. Thanks.
Right, Dan, before we go on, we should point out that we will be releasing this episode as an audio podcast as well as a video where we're going to be showing the posters along the way. And it's going to take us about a week and a half to get that video done. If you want to see the posters, check out the video.
All right. Let's take a step back now and talk about the posters that we're going to be covering today. James Bond posters of the 1970s. And there were 5 James Bond movies in the 70s. Diamonds Are Forever, 1971. Live and Let Die, 73. The Man with the Golden Gun, 74. The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. And Moonraker in 79. So the posters for the movies like Live and Let Die, The Spy Who Loved Me, they continued to feature women prominently in these posters, often depicted as mysterious, exotic, and even dangerous. And the imagery, the posters grew more elaborate, featuring Bond in the center, flanked by women in provocative poses. This era kind of leaned into the campy end of things, over-the-top style, blending sexuality with adventure and boldness. And then the message they delivered, the tone was somewhat playful, yet blatantly and unapologetically focused on Bond's romantic escapades, their exotic appeal, while intertwining the main theme elements for each of the movies. So that's what we're going to talk about.
Awesome. Now, Bill, can you tell us about some of the artists you mentioned, McGinnis, for the posters of the 70s? We're still in a decade where they produced a lot of Bond movies. I wish they could put them out more frequently like that today, but they don't.
Well, in the 70s, Robert McGinnis, he did the first 3 of the 70s films, Diamonds, Live and Let Die, and Man with the Golden Gun. He also, if you look at his posters, in some ways, they're more spectacular than some of the films themselves. Because in the Diamonds poster, for example, the satellite that generated the laser beam, that had used diamonds to generate the laser beam, in the posters you can see little astronauts in it, which gives you the idea that this is an enormous satellite. But when you look at the movie, it's not nearly that big. In The Man with the Golden Gun, you have a scene set where the solar complex is blowing up, and there's like multiple guys, whereupon in the movie you just have one guy kind of in charge of maintenance for the whole thing.
Yep.
Yeah, the
and
posters were.
also in Golden Gun, that poster, you see the car flip, and which is obviously based on the movie, but there's actually a man like in the little stream that Bond's jumping over. He's in a boat watching this. Well, which didn't happen in the movie. It would have been too dangerous, I suppose. And then, and Live and Let Die, one of the women, it has this tarot theme. One of the women is holding a little James Bond voodoo doll, which is an interesting idea, but wasn't really viewed in the movie. I mean, nobody tried to put a voodoo hex on Bond in the film.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that
Yeah.
voodoo doll a little bit
Yeah.
later.
Yeah, about all of
Yeah.
this.
So
Yeah.
anyway, so like I said, McGinnis had a very distinctive touch, and like I said, he was like, his versions of the movies were more spectacular than the films themselves in some respects.
Yeah, he was terrific.
And then for some reason they moved away from McGinnis. They had Bob Peak with the Spy Who Loved Me poster, which is a very different style, but it's very, eye-catching nonetheless. And then I'm sorry, I don't remember the artist for Moonraker, but there were actually multiple posters. There were like teaser posters before the final
Yeah, I think.
big poster. One peculiar thing about the Moonraker poster is Holly Goodhead is dressed like the Drax women in a skimpy outfit.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, it's the final poster. I mean, it's huge. You've got Drax in the background pointing down, like, get him. You have Jaws floating coming at Bond. So that was very much a larger than life poster, and very much reflecting the spirit of the movie. Frank McCarthy, yes, he worked with McGinnis on some posters. Yeah, going back, I think with Thunderball from the '60s, they both worked on that movie, for example. And I think they both worked on You Only Live Twice, including that. I think it was McCarthy did that incredibly elaborate one with the volcano thing is opening up, and Bond is rather improbably hanging on with his feet where it's opening. But yeah, McCarthy, he was a big artist at the time. We got Renato Frattini, who contributed Crown poster for Diamonds Are Forever and From Russia with Love.
Yeah.
A lot of talented artists working on these campaigns.
We saw the power of the artists when we talked about the posters of the 1960s with Bond. So let's see what these artists have in store for us now. So the first one we want to look at is the 1971 James Bond movie, Diamonds Are Forever. And this is a McGinnis poster that we're talking about. This is a cool poster. To me, the return of Sean Connery as Bond was special, and they wanted to make it special. The poster we're going to look at now is a US 1 sheet, which has Bond in the middle with a bikini-clad woman on either side, and the diamond satellite behind their heads with a big, huge splash like that of the Earth. Wow, it looks cool. You also see the oil rig under attack with explosions all around it, the moon buggy in the foreground, helicopters all around the figures with the oil platform. It's a wow poster, another Robert McGinnis special. But this is Diamonds Are Forever. So the woman on the right of the poster to Bond's left is holding a handful of diamonds.
You're not going to go here, are you, Dan?
I am going there because that's exactly what the artists want us to do. You know what we're going to talk about. Well, in her left hand is a handful of sparkling white diamonds held right in front of Bond's dark tuxedo. Well, let's pay attention to where her hand is holding these jewels. You got it? You know where I'm going?
Yeah.
Right in front of James Bond's crotch. So there's two things here. One, her hand is near his crotch. Two, she's holding diamonds, jewels. And we all know about men and their family jewels. This is no accident.
You went there.
The artist is literally making us think this. It's brilliant in a lot more ways than one. But this is great artwork and controlling those who see the work. And also Bond is in a tux, of course, and holding a pistol in his right hand and across the lower left part of his face. Bond is back. That's what they want to say. Tux, gun, women. Yeah. The colors are bold with a black night sky, splash of blue, and the words diamonds are forever in yellow. And the word forever, and I love this, is repeated 5 times below, shifting colors from yellow through orange to a deep brown. This is a great attempt at forever. It goes on and on and on, almost like an image in an infinity mirror.
But
It's pretty
Dan,
cool.
that actually depends on the poster you see, though. Like the British quads, there's only three forevers. Your
Yeah,
point's
yeah.
still valid,
I'm
but
talking about this
yeah, but
poster. Yeah,
that theme carries over in the other posters for
yes.
this movie.
And it's a brilliant use of art. But they had to stop somewhere. So, with the original Forever plus the 5 Forevers beneath it in this poster that we're talking about, we have a total of 6. And I don't know, coincidence or not, this is Sean Connery's 6th James Bond movie. Okay, I don't think that's a coincidence. There are also a couple of scuba divers in the water or blue section of this poster, too. So, it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and I like the fact that you said that Bond was holding a gun because he doesn't do that anymore, apparently. No, Bill,
Well, they changed
yeah,
now.
they're
Amazon took it down because there was so much
yeah,
feedback against them. Yeah,
right.
when they removed the guns from Bond. One guy on Reddit had a great poster he created, and they all had like super soaker squirt guns in their hands instead.
Yeah.
It was terrific. All
All
right.
right. So, Bill, you talked about this poster and how it differs from the movie a little bit earlier, and in your April 12th, 2025 blog post about the McGinnis posters. So, can you kind of go into talk about the feel of that huge satellite versus what we get in the movie and the influence that it had on the marketing of this movie?
Well, in the poster we see these astronauts by the laser satellite, and of course there aren't any astronauts to be found in the film. So that just, like I said earlier, McGinnis's posters in some ways were more spectacular than the films they were selling.
He was creating Moonraker before Moonraker was even around.
Yeah, yeah, and I
That's pretty
remember
cool.
see the first time I saw this image, I bought the movie tie-in edition paperback. This was probably about a month at least before the movie even came out. Of course, you see it, in a bookstore, and it kind of leaps out at you. I don't know if you see
Yeah.
quite everything that on the movie poster, because obviously it's a much smaller size, but it's the same
Yeah,
basic
yeah.
image, and yeah, it very much catches your eye. And also, I'd say that the helicopters attacking the oil rig look a little more spectacular than
Hmm.
what's in the movie, because I remember there were some fans were complaining about, the attack in the movie was kind of so, but yeah,
Hmm.
where
Yeah, it wasn't as spectacular as they
yeah.
thought it should have been.
So,
Yeah.
but you can't say that about the poster. There's like I didn't
Yeah, the
stop to
poster
count the
is
number of
fantastic.
helicopters. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
Yep. And for me, that's satellite. So we talked about the astronauts kind of foreshadowed Moonraker, and I think that's satellite foreshadowed Icarus and Die Another Day. Because that was a much bigger satellite trying to beam things down.
Wow. Hey, Tom, you made a Die Another Day reference without criticizing the movie. That's
I
pretty
I
cool.
bit my tongue
Nice.
there.
Yeah. All right.
Well, now there are many variations of the main graphic of this poster in other Diamonds Are Forever posters or lobby cards or whatever, which were used in subway posters, U.S. cinema insert pieces, U.S. half sheets, British newsstand posters, and more. There is one poster, which is a U.S. lobby card. It has 8 images from the movie on it, including the Mustang on its side, the oil rig, Bond in bed with Tiffany, casino,
Yeah.
Bond in the pre-title with bra around the woman's neck to find out where Blofeld is, and more. It's cool because it tells us a story in pictures and gives us hints what may come. Remember, this is a lobby card, so you are already in the theater waiting to see Diamonds, and you get to see a teaser in the lobby. One quick note: we mentioned the Mustang, and that, of course, is a little infamous because he goes into the alley one way and then comes out the other, and they film that insert.
Yeah.
I'm a host of a podcast called the 007 Files, and I talked to film professional Robert Short. Before he became a professional, he found a way to hang around the filming. So he was telling me with that car, the stunt driver was not comfortable putting on the left wheels. He felt he could do it with the right wheels. So that's why it's filmed that. In other words, it wasn't an accident per se. It was the preference of the driver, and like, well, we'll fix it in post production, which they did. But
Oops.
that's a little backstory, which I wasn't aware of until early
Yeah,
this
that's
year.
good.
So
Yeah, I hadn't heard that either. That's good. It's amazing what they do in post. All right, so let's move on then to Live and Let Die in 1973. We get another McGinnis poster. Now, Eon has to introduce another new actor as James Bond here. And so Roger Moore's got to be good here. The marketing's got to be good here as well. And they took a little bit of a risk with this movie because it really was more of a feel of the blaxploitation movies that were out at that time. So it's an interesting thing to try to market. So the main poster is a British quad cinema poster. And this same poster was made up in like 8 or 9 different versions for different countries, including a 1 sheet in the US, a half sheet in the US, and a US 24 sheet. Pretty much the same artwork by McGinnis, who's always great here. And basically in this one, James Bond is surrounded by a crisp array of playing cards. He's got speedboats, alligators, sharks, 4 sensuous Bond girls. Naturally, they're in bikinis.
Of course.
So, Bill, do you know anything about the 24 sheet size and how they might have used it in their marketing?
well, we got James Bond in the center, as we said, and he dominates the posters of the 70s. And in fact, this image of Bond, Roger Moore Bond, would be used. Well, we'll get to Man with the Golden Gun, but also in other bits of promotional work. Like, for example, after the Broccoli Saltzman split, there was an ad in Variety. I happened to see it in my public library. And, Spy Who Loved Me, directed by Louis Gilbert. It's just got Broccoli's name, but it's this image of Roger Moore in that. So this bit of McGinnis artwork got some use. They expanded the use beyond just this poster.
Yeah, and we're talking about the different sizes too, because they were different European sizes, U.S. sizes, and so on. But they went all the way up to the U.S. 24 sheet, which Tom was
which is
about
huge.
there.
Yeah,
That's a billboard size poster. So that's what a 24 sheet is. That's pretty huge. So they use McGinnis everywhere in every size you can imagine.
Right. And we've got glass-drawn boats, which we got a boat coming out of an alligator's mouth. That's a very arresting image. And we also have something at the very bottom of the poster. We have something that's not in the movie. It's Roger Moore with some kind of big, I don't know if you call it a cannon or what, but he's firing it. And I think that's based on a publicity still. Roger Moore did pose with one of those, but again, it's not in the film. But there's again McGinnis adding something to his poster that's not in the movie.
Well, you wonder too how much of that stuff he does the design up front, and then in editing something goes away too.
That's possible. Sure.
Yeah.
But as I said, they definitely took the time to have Roger Moore pose with one of those things. So
yeah.
And then we've got women, of course, and we've got one African American woman. I assume that's based on the Rosie Carver character.
Mm-hmm.
I mentioned it before. We've got a woman holding a James Bond voodoo doll that's even posed like Roger Moore.
Yeah, it's got the little gun and everything.
Yeah. Now it's interesting for this poster. Bond's wearing a business suit and not a tux. Of course, he did not wear a tux in the film either. So I don't know what was going on there, but
he was always a rebel with breaking the mold of Bond stuff, right? He with a lots of things he did differently in the movies
Yeah.
more
Yep.
than the
And also
previous
the women
ones.
are, there's a different tarot cards behind them. Devil, Death, the Lovers, on the right, Fortune.
Mhm.
Oh, and Live and Let Die, the words, the font has a dagger
Yeah.
so it looks like a knife
The eye part of it.
in
Yeah.
die.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clever.
Oh, and they also did something, and they only did it this one movie. The way they arranged Roger Moore. So it's like his name, rather than, it's Roger above Moore, and they line up the O's, and then you have the 7 with the gun logo. So creating a 007 logo is part of Roger Moore's name.
Yeah. That was clever.
Yeah, kind of a twist on the Joe Cariff design for the 007 logo.
Yeah.
So that's pretty
Yeah.
cool.
So I assume they did it in part because, again, as we said, they're introducing a new Bond, and so
Mhm.
using the letters to do that.
All right, so let's kind of go through the cards then a little bit more because it's kind of interesting because the devil card foretells the entire concept of voodoo. You talked about the doll, the island rituals, and evil that come with it. It's very detailed with this boa wrapped around this woman, and it foretells us the use of snakes we're going to see in this movie in San Monique.
Yeah, the tarot cards are important that they're being shown here in this poster because they tell their own story. So we just
And
talked
they kind of
about,
tell the story of the movie a little bit if you pay
yeah,
attention to it.
you're right. You just talked about the devil card. Now we talk about the death card. I mean, this continues the story with the death card, with an image of Baron Samedi reinforcing the first tarot card's message. We see a lot of death in this movie, starting with the pre-title sequence and continuing throughout, and in many different ways. The middle card behind Bond we cannot read, but there is a car, water, and what looks to be a shark with its mouth open and teeth showing. Well, it appears to be a water card in tarot lingo, which means command and mastery, and a shark. Well, what does that represent? A shark swims sleekly and efficiently at home and in control. So, this is a good card to be behind James Bond. But a shark can also mean death, too. So, we have to wonder. This is all being revealed in the poster, which is terrific, right?
Well, especially when the shark's got its mouth open like that. That seems
Yeah,
like it's trying to
exactly.
find some death.
Well,
Yeah.
it
This is
the shark
brilliant
almost
art.
looks like it's about to bite Bond in the ass.
Yep,
Yeah.
that's true.
Yeah. Ouch.
Watch out, James.
Next, we have the lovers card. The lovers card. We know what Bond does while speaking with Solitaire when he stacks the deck in his favor with all the lovers cards. So it worked out pretty well for Bond. I guess for Solitaire too. But wow. Then what? Now we got the fortune card, Bill.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, and it's fortune telling. Whose fortunes will be positive, whose will be negative. Devil card. It's a very interesting design, and again, first time I saw this art was a newspaper ad ahead of release in the U.S. Definitely caught my eye. Now the newspaper ad wasn't as elaborate as the poster. They obviously cropped some of it, but yeah, it first time you see it, it catches your eye, and
Yeah.
I mean, I had read. I hadn't. I'm trying to remember if I had read Live and Let Die before the movie came out, but anyway, it very much, even though it is not a faithful adaptation of the novel, this poster art did kind of grab onto a lot of themes of the novel, and again, as relates to voodoo and such.
Yeah. And this fortune card too. It has what looks like maybe is Rosie Carver
Well, with the
on this
big hair,
card.
yeah.
Yeah, which maybe her fortune is not so good. So, I mean, all of this is in this poster.
Yeah, and one thing I
It's
really liked
fantastic.
about this is the women on the ends. They're kind of 3D-ish. They're on the
Hmm.
card, but then they're not on the card. When you look at it closely, it's like they're they span the card versus reality, where Baron Semine stays on the card. So I thought that was
Yeah,
kind of an interesting look at things.
yeah, which is foretelling in the movie too, because we know how the end
Yeah.
goes. All right. The center stage in front of Bond is what looks like it might be solitaire, holding 5 tarot cards, and a firing gun barrel basically between her legs. All right. So I'm thinking, what's the artist trying to do here? A long gun barrel blasting out flames,
Okay.
kind of between her legs.
Dan,
What can that possibly symbolize? I don't know. I'm racking my brain
Dan,
trying to figure out what the heck that could
but
possibly
hang
mean.
on a second. She isn't straddling this thing. You make it sound like she's straddling this thing. The flames aren't blasting between her legs. She's sitting on that thing, almost side saddle.
I, I,
You know?
I was just
Yeah,
thinking that.
look at
Yeah,
it again.
she's riding the
Yeah.
that big gun side saddle.
Yeah, right. There
So,
you
so
go,
Dan,
Bill. Riding the big
riding the
gun.
big gun.
Right?
Dan, where's your
Right.
mind going?
My mind is going exactly where the artist wanted all of our minds to go.
Well,
I'm just
also
helping
just
out
in
here.
broader context, when McGinnis passed away, I looked at multiple sites, a lot of them devoted to crime paperbacks, and they had a ton. I mean, he did dozens of covers over the years. And if you look at his
Yeah,
broader
yeah.
work, I mean, scantily dressed
Tremendous
women
artist.
is a recurring theme. So
He has that
yeah,
down.
he has it. Yeah, he definitely had it down. So
All right. So in this poster, which is certainly the main poster art for Live and Let Die, you have sex, you have violence, voodoo, chases, and Bond women all wrapped up into a neat little package. This is a fantastic poster. But again, that weird guy on the left that you talked about, Bill, the little voodoo-y guy. I mean, the face is ridiculous on that thing. It just looks so
well, if you
stupid. I know it's a
Well, if
voodoo
you
doll, but
Google voodoo doll and look at the images, most of them are dolls. They know they don't have faces that resemble who they're voodooing. You know, supposedly with voodoo, one depiction, not Bond, of voodoo, you try to get, say, hair of the person you intend to
yeah, boy.
effect with the voodoo doll. So the doll itself doesn't look that great, but I mean, on this same thing, I'll be honest, it's an episode of The Man from Uncle. It's like you had to try to get some hair of the victim or your intended victim, and you might have a photo that you put that where the doll's face would be. So, but
Ah,
again,
there
I'm going sideways here, so I don't want to go too far. But
yeah.
yeah,
All right. But at least here we got the tux, we got the gun. Okay. All right. We'll let it slide. All right.
Okay. Now,
Let's move
there
on.
are a couple other posters for Live and Let Die, or there are lobby cards as well. And
Yes.
one is another one of these 8-panel British front of the house mini lobby cards. I think it was only in the 8 by 10 size. This shows us pictures from the movie, as we've seen done before, with Solitaire in her chair, Bond in Kanaga's lair, the Glastron boat flying over the car, Kananga underwater before his inflated ego explodes, Baron Samedi, and Bond and Solitaire restrained in the lair, and Carver and Bond frying a snake. So we see pieces of the story, and what we will see is revealed here again. This is a lobby card, so you would have already been in the theater. You're getting a little
Yeah.
teaser of what's to come.
Yeah. I like that. I like that they did that with lobby cards. You don't see that kind of thing anymore
No,
in theaters. You
you
know.
see the big
All right.
posters.
Yeah. There's a cool Glastron poster too, promoting Glastron and the movie. And it's cool. And it's entitled C007's Leap for Life in a Glastron. So that's a cool poster. Not a biggie. We're not going to talk about it much, but it's another cool one. And lastly, there's a simple black and red on white poster of Roger Moore with a pistol and tux with Roger Moore as 007. Again, we have the 007 logo in vertical position, like you were talking about earlier, Bill, to align with the O's in the Roger and the Moore, and the 7 below the pistol, just like in the main poster. Again, cool posters that are creative works of art. Art is really the word there. But Bill, are they as good as the 1960s posters, do you
Yeah, I
think?
mean, I read an article that you have up on your blog where you talked about the artwork for You Only Live Twice as being the peak of movie poster art in general.
yeah, it's probably not quite as good as the '60s stuff. I mentioned earlier that again, I'm pretty sure it was Frank McCarthy who did it. where it's, the Spectre volcano layer opening up, and Bond.
Mhm.
It's I remember seeing it as a kid. Bond has his feet. He's practically, at a right angle, and he's in his tuxedo. There's all this mayhem happening beneath him. That might be the peak. There's a Thunderball piece of art. Thunderball has, so many pieces of art, but
Yeah.
I remember a puzzle, jigsaw puzzle, and it had this thing with Bond and the Spectre frogmen and the good guy frogmen. Connery doesn't have a mask, so we can see his face. But they turned that piece of art into a jigsaw puzzle. I got it for Christmas one year.
That's cool.
All right, so let's shift to The Man with the Golden Gun in 1974. Now, this Bond movie is often ranked as one of Roger Moore's least favorite James Bond movies. And we did an episode of all of his movies, and this one tends to get ranked just above A View to a Kill. But the posters for this 1974 movie, which was released in December 20th of 1974, right around Christmas, they're pretty good.
Yeah.
And,
They are.
I mentioned Christmas. The first poster we want to talk about is one called A Christmas Present, another great one by Robert McGinnis. It's a U.S. Advanced one-sheet cinema poster. And this thing is pretty cool. It's a straightforward poster. There's a stark black background with the words "A Christmas Present" in green, with "From James Bond" below it in white. Stark contrast totally rule this poster. And the key reveal here is not women, but the components of the golden gun. And the assembled or disassembled gun, giving us a sense of intrigue just from the poster. Again, the white against the black, giving us this starkness. The man with the golden gun is ready to assassinate James Bond. And all of this takes up about 3/4 of the poster. So it's really, really cool.
Yeah,
Right,
it's a
and
good poster.
again, they're reusing that McGinnis drawing of Roger Moore from Live and Let Die at the bottom of the poster, and then keeping with the Christmas
Yeah,
theme,
yeah.
the fact they're using, you've got white, you've got red, and you've got green. A Christmas Present is in green, and 007 down at the bottom is in
Yeah.
green. They had done a teaser trailer also with the Christmas theme, Christmas Present. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, when you dig into the details of these posters, like this one with the red and the green, like you're saying, Bill, I mean, that's pretty cool. I mean, they're clever. It's coming around Christmas time. They got red and green in there. It's just, they're thinking. They're forward thinking. And it's just so good to see this in these posters.
Yeah, and thank goodness there are people way more creative than I that can come up with this. I mean, because even at the
Yeah.
very bottom of this thing, against a red background, are the words "For Christmas 1974."
Yeah, no, I never noticed that before.
well, we were just talking about this. There's a chest up photo of Bond, well, illustration of Bond holding his pistol, and he's still in a suit, not in a tux yet. So we have yet to see Roger Moore in a tux, although he does have a tux in the movie itself, but not in the poster yet. Anyway, Moore in his first few movies, he smoked cigars instead of cigarettes. In the previous movie, he drank bourbon neat instead of ordering a martini, stuff like that. Yeah, and he also, in the gun barrel, Roger Moore was the first one to not have a hat.
Mhm.
First you had Bob Simmons subbing for Connery in the first three, then Connery filmed his own for Thunderball. He's wearing a hat to be consistent with the Bob Simmons version, and then Lazenby wore a hat to be consistent with the first two, but Roger Moore broke that streak. And
Yeah.
I read somewhere years ago that apparently they tried a hat. He didn't look good in a hat. So when Maurice Binder was doing the new gun barrel for the new Bond, forget it. Don't wear a hat.
Yeah.
I can see that. I can see that.
Yep, that's
Where he wouldn't look good in a hat. Yeah.
well, and it's kind of interesting because that hat kind of got retired at Thunderball, although it does pop up again. Moore carries it a couple times, but he never puts it on his head.
Yeah, because with For Your Eyes Only, he actually throws the hat on the hat rack, a la Connery,
Right.
but you never see him wear it.
Right.
And then in Octopussy, he's aiming the hat to throw it to the hat rack, but then he's taken by seeing Penelope Smallbone, and then he just puts the hat on the hat rack. But again, he's carrying around, but he never wears it. So
Yeah. All right. The next poster we're going to look at here for the man with the golden gun is the Square International 6 sheet. This same design that we will talk about was once used on many different size posters for the man with the golden gun. International 3 sheets, US inserts, German cinema posters, and more. So let's examine this one. This is a great
It
one.
is, because we have James Bond front and center. He's got this dark suit on again with a red striped tie, no tux again. But this is more of a traditional artsy kind of James Bond poster with a lot going on. Does it have women? Yes. Certainly the one in the black bikini is Andrea Anders, who's played by Maud Adams. Another in a red bikini is likely supposed to be Miss Goodnight, played by Britt Eklund. Then we get a great image of the golden gun aimed at James Bond. And there's a hand about to load the bullet. And on the bullet is the marking 007. We have to remember, Scaramanga's gun only held one shot. That's all he needed. And he was putting the bullet in to take out James Bond. And of course, Christopher Lee played Scaramanga wonderfully in this movie.
Yeah. And then in the same poster, we have a small representation of Knick Knack. Small representation.
Don't, Dan.
Yeah.
Don't.
Hervé Villachez. And we could see on the upper left, the car, the AMC, doing the barrel roll over the water, giving us a hint as to what we may see in the movie. Now, this is on the poster, not a lobby card. And then we have Scaramanga aiming a light beam kind of weapon, an explosion with bodies flinging all over the place, and in the center, some martial arts images, 4 people in gis engaging in martial arts. So all of that is in this poster.
Well, and as I mentioned,
now a gi is a martial arts outfit, if you will.
That's an outfit you're wearing.
As I mentioned earlier, there's another version of this poster where the car going over the bridge, it's on the right side of the poster. This one we're looking at, it's on the left. And on that one where it's on the right, there's also somebody watching the car. He's in a boat, standing up. He's wearing, Asian style clothing. So presumably it's just some guy happened to be out in his boat that day. He saw.
Oops, look at that.
Honey, you won't believe what I saw today when he gets home.
And that weapon on the left, that is in the movie. Remember when Bond landed on Scaramanga's island? And
Scaramanga's pointing at him.
Yeah.
Yeah, when he's demonstrating this weapon, he destroys Bond's plane.
Yeah, Bond has no way of escaping. It's interesting, Scaramanga's face is fairly small in this, but at least Scaramanga's in the poster, whereupon I don't recall Kananga being in the Live and Let Die poster. Baron Samedi's were very prominent. But,
right.
Yeah, there were a lot of Goldfinger posters, too. They didn't have Goldfinger in the poster. It was kind of weird. But here, we got Scaramanga. But this is a cool poster, and look at the gun in this poster.
Yeah.
All right, and one nice thing to look at is how well the golden gun looks in this picture, because it's complete with all these reflections. We have the reflection of the hand about to load the bullet on the left. And on the right, we get a reflection of Andrea Anders' leg and her breast.
Yeah.
I mean, that really adds to the brilliance of this poster because of these reflections.
Easy to miss.
Attention to detail.
Attention to detail, yep. And all this is against a white background with golden letters spelling out Roger Moore as James Bond. Then the title, The Man with the Golden Gun.
Yeah, this time they didn't feel the need to line up the O in Roger and the O in Moore to make a 007. It's just done across.
Yeah.
They made their point.
Yeah.
In the previous movie.
Yeah.
So in this poster, I think it kind of reminded me, really, bringing back some of the elements of the 1960s posters here. Getting violent, sexy women, glimpses of what may happen in the movie, and a cool-looking Bond again, albeit not in the tux, but still a cool-looking Bond.
Yep,
Pretty.
It is. All right, so the last poster for this movie that we want to talk about is very different. And it takes a leap of connecting previous Bond movies with this one, which is kind of cool. I've got one issue with it we'll talk about in a second. This is a US one sheet with a mostly dark background, and across the top of the poster are the words in white, "The world's greatest villains tried to kill James Bond." And underneath the words are drawn images of Dr. No, Rosa Klebb and Grant, then Goldfinger and Oddjob, and then the Telly Savalas version of Blofeld.
I was about to say the context of this, you had multiple Blofelds you could choose from, three different actors. The TV series Kojak was on at this time. That might explain why they decided to pick the Telly Savalas version.
that makes sense.
He was very popular. Because when On Her Majesty's Secret Service was on ABC for the first time, the ad in TV Guide, Telly Savalas in biggest Bond movie. So it's like, poor George Lazenby, he's getting upstaged by Telly Savalas in the TV Guide ad.
I love Savalas as Blofeld. He was good. Yeah. But you're probably right, Bill.
Yeah. Now, another thing I liked about this is underneath these pictures of all these people are brief descriptions of how they tried to take out Bond and how they failed. So I like it kind of in concept. To me, it gets a little bit wordy.
Yeah, it is. I have to say it's wordy, but I love that they're connecting Bond to the previous missions here, which is always cool. It's making the connection that this Bond is the same Bond that we saw before. And then while the past villains have failed, this poster is bringing us to the point where they're saying, hey, now it's Scaramanga's turn to try to kill Bond. So I like all of that. It was a nice little package.
Well,
Yeah, see, now for me, this is the one thing I don't really like about how they did this, because this is the same James Bond thing that you say. They should have had that on the Live and Let Die poster saying, yes, it is still Bond. That, to me,
maybe
that would have been a better place for it. Now that you have to think about it, right, at the time. But to me, it seems almost late in the game. I get what they're trying to do.
I like it anytime they do it. I think it's great. I think it's a great thing for them to do, connecting Bond to previous missions. It's great stuff.
I was going to say, I remember seeing this poster. It must have been Christmas of '75, a year after it came out, because I went to a theater. I was visiting relatives in Iowa. This theater was having a double feature of Live and Let Die and The Man with the Golden Gun. I had not seen this poster on the first release, but they had this one. They had the regular Live and Let Die one. But I was very intrigued. Also, Scaramanga is much more prominent here than he was in the other poster we discussed, and his golden gun glimmers. Yeah, it definitely catches your eye. Now, the fashion police may not care for Roger Moore's flared pants, but that was.
I mean, yeah, you're right. The background here does have Scaramanga with his gun, and it's a nice silhouette kind of thing of him. Then center and left, you have James Bond, which doesn't look all that much like Moore here. It's kind of a caricature of him almost. And then Andre Anders is there, and Miss Goodnight, presumably, in bikinis. And Bond, by the way, is in the dark suit, again, not a tux. And the gun hides any image of the tie, so he may not be wearing a tux. He might just be the suit. And then the flared pants. He's got the flared pants. I never paid attention to the flared pants.
I never got that either. Hey, it's a sign of the times, baby.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yes. One other note here. Both women have their left arm up with their hand palm out, facing us over their forehead. This is not a coincidence. This posture is often called a face palm, and it is a common gesture expressing frustration, embarrassment, disbelief, exasperation, or even shock. Probably in this case, some of each, as they never knew what they were in for getting involved with Bond. For Goodnight, we can see the embarrassment or disbelief. For Anders, more the shock, dealing with both Bond and Scaramanga. And without a single word, these gestures mean so much to the movie and to this poster, conveying what the movie may be about. And pretty brilliant.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of stuff in a poster, and it's easy to overlook all of this stuff in a poster, which is why we want to do these episodes on the posters, because they deserve this attention. That kind of detail is tremendous. Wow. We have posters for the two 1970s Bond movies that are left, The Spy Who Loved Me and Moonraker. So let's get on to The Spy Who Loved Me, 1977. We think The Spy Who Loved Me is one of Roger Moore's best outings as James Bond. And we know that the movie only takes the title from an Ian Fleming work, not the content. Fleming was not happy with the way his novel turned out. It was Fleming's ninth novel, published in 1962, and is the shortest and most sexually explicit of his novels, and the only Bond novel told in the first person through a narrator who was a young Canadian woman, Viv Michel. So the story was a screenwriter's work here, and as many have said, is a very similar story to You Only Live Twice. Nonetheless, we love this movie, and Moore as Bond in this movie is terrific. So let's look at some of the more famous posters.
Well, the first thing, even though the novel was very sexual, the posters aren't really. They highlight key elements in the movie. To one degree or another, you see the submarine car, you see Atlantis, you see, underwater is going to be part of the important part of the movie. Finally, though, Roger Moore's in a tux in a poster.
Yay!
Yeah, so new artist here, Bob Peake.
Yep.
It's a simple gray background rectangle with a colorful graphic. Bond and Triple X in the more or less in the center. Oh, and we see the submarines. Part of Stromberg's snatching up submarines, and then at the bottom, I said earlier that we get underwater imagery, and it touches on that long sequence where the car goes underwater and tries to perform reconnaissance at Atlantis, and then all these guys come after it. Major Asimov is wearing a mostly black dress, some white, and showing a fair amount of leg.
Yeah.
And she's grabbing her necklace with a sparkly stone showing.
Yeah, it's kind of a cool poster again, and there's some stuff in this poster. If you look at the poster visually, it's well balanced, it's laid out nicely, and everything else. But there's a couple of things in it, like there's this red snake-like object that crosses behind them from the lower right of them to the left of them as we look at it, and it has to be something. I don't know why they would have put it in there. It had to be something, but I can't think what it could possibly be. Some have said it represents Stromberg's Liparis in an abstract kind of way, a serpentine style to reflect its sinister nature or whatever. To me, though, I mean, that would be a stretch.
I'm not so
have no
sure
idea
about
what that is.
one, Dan.
Me neither. I have no idea what it is, but why would they put that in there? I mean, it's pretty prominent.
Yeah.
I don't know. And it has Roger Moore's name and James Bond 007 in red on the left. In dark blue on the right are the words, "It's the biggest, it's the best." And then in red, it's Bond. And then back to blue and beyond. Okay, beyond.
Yeah, the beyond may be a hint that it really doesn't follow the novel. It has almost nothing to do with the novel. The closest there is, the novel had a thug named Horror, nicknamed Horror, who had braces. And of course, we get Jaws with his metal teeth. But that's, you could say it's inspired by the novel, but it's not really based on the novel.
Definitely not.
Jaws, metal teeth. Yeah. But, and just real quick, if you've ever read Christopher Wood's novelization of the movie, he gives a whole backstory about Jaws. He was, if I remember right, he was Polish, and installing the teeth, that they had to sever his vocal cords or something to explain why he couldn't talk. Of course, then they go, they forget about that in the next movie. But anyway,
well, continuity has never been an Eon Productions James Bond movie strength.
No, it hasn't.
All right.
Well, and plus, you would only know that bit about the vocal cords if you had bought the novelization.
Yeah.
And like if you never did, you wouldn't, it wouldn't mean anything to you.
Yeah.
But
all right. And if you continue looking at the poster, in the upper part of the poster is a graphic in red. And to me, it almost looks like a Superman logo, but the top part forms a triangle with the sun setting on the left, giving us a hint at the pyramids. This is pretty clever. Oddly enough, Bob Peak, we're talking about here, who did the artwork, he did Superman the movie posters in 1978.
Okay, so you're talking about the way the kind of diamondy thing
Yeah, the
in red
Superman
towards
looking
the
thing, right?
top. Okay, I guess if and it's got the Sphinx in it. I mean, okay, if I squint a little bit, I might be able to see that.
All right. Squint a little more, you'll see it. It's pretty obvious. All right. Now, I never paid attention to this before. This is a British quad. So there's a capital letter A just after the yellow title of the movie. At first, I thought, oh, this is a typo or an editorial marking that got overlooked. But Bill, can you tell us what this is? Because obviously it's there for a reason.
The A is it's the film's rating in the UK,
Okay, all right.
which was suitable for adults, meaning it was appropriate for a general audience.
Okay.
But some scenes might not be suitable for children. The letter A was a standard abbreviation by the British Board of Film Censors in the late 1970s. Interestingly, the A rating was changed to PG by the BBFC.
Huh?
They didn't reclassify this movie until home video came out, 2001. And it wasn't until License to Kill that a Bond movie didn't receive the A classification. That movie originally received an R rating in the US, but with some editing, it was given the PG-13 rating.
Yeah. It was too
Those
violent
ratings
or whatever.
boards.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, well, they got to justify their existence.
Well, it's still better than the Hays Code.
Right. Oh, yeah. No question.
There's also a US one sheet and a US half sheet poster and some international posters that fundamentally use the same graphics as well. So it is safe to say that Bob Peak departed from Robert McGinnis's style, who had worked on many earlier Bond movies, making it more, I think, modernized, maybe the word for it. Peak was the main artist for this movie, of course.
Well, and in this British quad, we actually see Bob Peak's signature on the lower left.
Yeah.
Most poster artists didn't get to sign their work. Just broader context, I mean, Peak was really busy at this time. I remember in this era, he did a lot of covers for TV Guide, and he signed those too.
Yeah.
So so this is kind of, he was really cooking in terms of getting a lot of art assignments.
Yeah. That's pretty wild. I remember when we talked to Joe Karoff too. He said that as well, that you can't, you signing your posters and stuff. It didn't happen often.
Bill, you have a blog post that talks about some credit changes that happened in the original movie poster for here. Can you go into that?
Yeah, there is an early version where it says, well, this is all involving the credits, not the artwork. So down in the credits, it says starring Kurt Jurgens and introducing Barbara Bach. That would later be changed to starring Barbara Bach and Kurt Jurgens as Stromberg, I think. But that thing with Kurt Jurgens first, that was also in the credits on the novelization, which had, reproduced the movie poster art and had credits. But also in this one early version, you have a rather unusual credit which reflected changes behind the scenes at Eon. And it says, produced by Albert R. Broccoli, assistant to producer Mike Wilson. Now, I wonder if this might have caused a bit of some tension because, Ken Adam, his credit was included in the poster for You Only Live Twice and Diamonds Are Forever, but it's not here. But meanwhile, here's Mike Wilson getting credit. Assistant producer is not the kind of credit that often makes the poster. And also not making the credits here was associate producer William P. Cartledge, who was brought in actually by Lewis Gilbert. How I found out about it, a friend of mine, he had been a Bond collector. He auctioned his collection off a few years ago, actually almost 10 years ago now, and made a pretty decent amount of money. But Mike Wilson credit disappeared from most posters, but Ken Adam and William Cartledge still didn't make the poster.
Huh.
Interestingly, in the next poster, Michael G. Wilson got a spiffier title. He had the title of executive producer. And both Adam and Cartledge made that poster, but I don't know. I'm being rather speculative about this, but I can't imagine Ken Adam was pleased to see his name not make the poster
I've
after
got to
having
imagine
been
some of the
on.
conversations when they're trying to figure out what goes on here have to be pretty nasty.
And you get agents and lawyers involved,
Yeah.
because credits are, there's very few credits that aren't subject to a lot of haggling.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
All right. There's other posters as well that were done for this movie. The Spy Who Loved Me. L. Franz Kiefer created some posters for the movie that were alternative posters as well.
there's another one. It was a preliminary poster. It was like coming this summer sort of thing.
Oh,
I remember seeing this at my local theater. So the movie came out in the U.S. in the latter part of the summer,
yeah.
but this poster was up for a while there, and it's mostly a photo-based poster, and it's Bond and Beyond, summer 0077. Well, these are two of them we see. In one, there's Bond and Jaws. Maybe they're getting the idea that Jaws might have an impact on the audience.
Yeah.
As a
All right.
just as a piece of background, Richard Keel had been around since about 1960, and he had been on spy TV shows of the 60s. He was in 2 episodes of The Man from U.N.C.L.E., 4 episodes of The Wild Wild West, and an episode of I Spy.
Oh, wow.
And he also threw
So
Gene Wilder off the train in Silver
yeah,
Streak.
yes,
One of my
yes.
favorite movies of all time.
We'll see more Richard Keel when we get to Moonraker.
All right. Yeah. So this is a cool poster too. You'll see that in our video. Cool. All right. Let's move on to Moonraker.
All right. So in this case, we're the last one in the 1970s, barely made it in the 1970s, Moonraker from 1979. So Eon Productions was trying to cash in on the popularity of space movies in the 1970s, like Star Wars. So they moved Moonraker up in the production schedule, which caused a little bit of a problem because at the end of The Spy Who Loved Me, we got James Bond Will Return in For Your Eyes Only. Well, that wasn't in the next movie. So they moved For Your Eyes Only to 1981.
As you said, continuity was never a strong point in Eon Productions.
Yeah, they want the money.
It's the same dilemma they had with Thunderball, because originally On Her
Right.
Majesty's Secret Service was supposed to be next. Originally, it said James Bond will return in On Her Majesty's Secret Service.
Right, in the British prints.
Yeah.
In the British prints, it said that.
Yeah.
But in the U.S. prints, it said Thunderball because, first of all, there was a fair, there was like 3 months
Right.
difference in release dates. And it was around the same time that Goldfinger was coming out in the UK that they cut the deal with McClory. So it was too late to change it for the British prints. But,
Okay.
when they were doing the US prints, they,
Yeah. Okay. That's a good point.
James,
Right. So they caught up.
it does say a Thunderball in the US prints.
Okay.
Goldfinger.
Yeah, because my copies of it don't say anything. So now the poster art for Moonraker, some of these posters are a bit outrageous. They have a heavy emphasis on the second half of the movie, not much at all on the first half of the movie. It's all about James Bond in space.
Yeah.
They do bring back some of the sexuality into these posters. So let's go ahead, Dan. Why don't you start us off talking a little bit about some of these?
Yeah. All right. So we see the posters in Moonraker were largely created by the American artist Daniel Guzzi. Guzzi designed a prominent poster for the movie that featured Roger Moore as James Bond in a spacesuit, reflecting the movie's space theme over and over again, or in a big way. And the spacesuit replaces the familiar look we have grown accustomed to seeing James Bond in a tux, or with Roger Moore, a lot of times it's in a suit. Anyway, the most famous one,
Well, he's
or
in
at
a
least
suit. It's a space suit.
it's a spacesuit.
Well, and also he has a tuxedo underneath the spacesuit.
Yeah.
You can see the bow tie.
Yeah. That's good. I never paid attention to that, actually. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, good find.
So it must be a little warm in there wearing a full-fledged
Yeah.
tuxedo.
You don't go to
and a
space that
spacesuit
often like
over it.
that. We don't see that too much with
Yeah.
astronauts. All right, the most famous poster, or at least one of the most famous posters for Moonraker, is a US 1 sheet, which has appeared in many sizes and many formats over the years for the movie, to promote the movie. This shows a graphic drawing of Roger Moore as James Bond, decked out in a white spacesuit, and like you pointed out, Bill, a tuxedo underneath it. That's kind of cool. I didn't notice that. Holding a space gun in his right hand across his chest. No helmet in this one, but the background is dark outer space with space shuttle type vehicles flying around and a very cool semicircle of the Earth above Bond's head. Now, one of the shuttles has left a flame or a vapor trail from the left side of the Earth image, and it cuts across and behind the Moonraker title, which is kind of cool, right above Bond's head, and it flies off to the right of the title. I think it looks kind of cool. I don't know exactly what they were trying to do with that, but it looks cool. It's a nice element.
Yeah, now one of the things not in the space theme are there's 6 women in skimpy outfits in here, and they're
you're
surrounding
kidding.
Bond. Now they are from up in space, but it's not obvious that that's where they are. 2 of them are touching his legs, and one of them has both of her hands on his left leg.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah.
one
But
has
follow
his-
the eyes of the one on the left there and see where she's staring. So there you
Okay,
go.
this is another one that I wasn't going to go there, Dan. Yeah,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, you should.
Watch
Well,
where she's
you
looking.
did.
The women are based on actresses who appear in the film.
Yep.
They're among the Flying Stud Farm, as
Yeah.
Bond put it, for Drax.
Yeah.
And they were wearing, skimpy outfits like that. Once they got in the space shuttle and sent into orbit, they were wearing those outfits.
Yeah.
Well,
Outfits
it
like
was
those.
supposed to repopulate the world, so they,
Right.
trying to turn the guys on. I
right,
don't know.
yeah.
All right.
You can see that.
Oh, real
Okay.
quick on Bond's spacesuit. Again, attention to detail. On his left sleeve, it's on our right, got a little Union Jack on the sleeve. And you can't really see it in this one, but there's a little patch that says J Bond 007
Not to
on
be
the
obvious.
spacesuit. Yeah. So
That's cool. Yeah, that's easy to miss too. But that's the kind of fun stuff that we're trying to point out here. That's kind of cool. So you could see that the 5 women here were facing forward. They have, of course, skimpy outfits on, like you said, down, plunging necklines, and seemingly nothing underneath the top is cleavage, and the side views of breasts are showing. All kinds of things are showing here. The one woman whose backside faces us has her shorts part of her outfit pretty snug, and you can see the side of her butt and her butt cheeks. So, I mean, yeah,
Dan,
they brought it back.
I'm going to clue you into a little bit of marketing. Sex sells.
Yeah, I think they kind of knew that.
So
And they
And
brought it
more
back again
importantly-
for Moonraker. That's good.
and more importantly, they acted upon it.
Yeah, right, there
Exactly.
you go. Yeah.
So
Hey,
they brought back a little of the sex to the posters, which we didn't see in much of the Spy Who Loved Me posters.
yeah.
The women touching the men in pictures or posters on the leg, it's often a sign of increased intimacy and interest. So Daniel Gozi, he knows what he's doing here.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. The poster art is very good. The poster has white letters across the blue earth saying, "Outer space now belongs to 007." Moonraker is in
It's
yellow.
no longer Star Wars. It's us.
It's us, yeah. Moonraker is in yellow right above Bond's head. And at the bottom of the poster are the words in red, "Blasting off in June." Nice.
We see a couple of other outer space objects toward the left and the right of the lower portion of the poster. On the left looks like an instrument of sorts with an antenna. On the right, there is an object that looks very much like the shape of R2-D2 from Star Wars.
It does.
We assume these are part of the space station, but we will see later that Drax is built, but it's not that obvious in this poster.
Yeah. And also, like, the movement trails under Bond's boots as though he were rising or shooting upwards himself. Kind of cool. Yeah.
That's James Bond blasting off in June.
Yeah, of course it is. But I'm looking for some hidden meanings here, Tom.
Okay.
Lastly, there are 4 bright shimmering stars on this poster. 3 next to Bond's head, 2 on the left and 1 on the right, and 1 is below the one on the left and under the shuttle ship. Well, I don't know. This might be a coincidence, but 4 brighter stars are dominating this, and this is Roger Moore's 4th James Bond movie. All right.
Wow.
Maybe not. I don't know. But that's kind of cool.
There's another version of a Moonraker poster, and the graphics are used in many versions. One is a U.S. New York subway poster, and the same basic graphics are used as an international 6-sheet poster, a U.S. 1-sheet, a U.S. half sheet, and more.
Yeah.
Again, this is the work of Daniel Gozi.
All right.
And we've got the international one as a reference point, and it's like Drax makes this poster. There he is on the left, pointing, as if ordering his minions to get Bond, and then we have Holly Goodhead wearing the same skimpy style outfit as the Drax women.
Yeah.
Now, wait a minute. Like you
can
said,
take liberties.
XL, so that's what they're. Yeah. And her hand is kind of near Bond's crotch as well.
Yeah.
Similar to the previous one we discussed. But we see more of what's happening in outer space. This is point of view as we're inside Drax's satellite, but you can see all those. What did they call them? Space Rangers? I don't know. But anyway, those U.S. guys coming out of the storage compartment of a shuttle.
Yeah.
And then another shuttle in the background.
Yeah.
Still not wearing a helmet.
He's got his J Bond 007 tag on there too.
Yeah, make sure he had the right spacesuit. I beg your pardon. I need my spacesuit.
Yeah, please. I like the one. I like Jaws in this one where he's got his arms about to grab Bond and everything. I think that's pretty cool. They did a good job in this one.
Well, it's like, okay, is it zero gravity or not? Because Drax is standing, but like Jaws looks like he's floating.
Yeah.
Well, you have to be a really big guy to float, I guess.
Yeah.
One other thing, he is firing in this. He's firing his space pistol directly at us in action on the poster.
Yeah. And you mentioned Bill Lois Child here as Dr. Holly Goodhead here leaning against Bond with touching his legs and so on and et cetera. And the way she's touching him in this, even though she was a very strong woman in the movie and a powerful character in the movie, the way she's touching him here indicates that she's kind of looking for his help and his protection here, because she's kind of like deferring to him to do something. And it is communicating all of this in this poster, which is kind of cool. She was a strong character in the movie, but here she's depending on Bond. And we also see the three other women, like you mentioned, skimpy outfits floating in space, while Bond and Goodhead seem anchored. They seem a little anchored too there. I don't get, but willing suspension of disbelief. Anyway, we get sexes back in the Moonmaker poster, which is kind of like
kind of Bondian. What we think of as Bondian. Yep.
Bondian. All right.
What? Real quick, there was a preliminary version, probably been like the fall of '78. It was like this standalone glossy paper thing stuffed into a copy of Variety, and it was like, okay, Bond's going into space now, and you saw the shuttle and stuff like that. But the Moonraker logo had like a little shuttle orbiting the word Moonraker. The reason I mention this is because outside of Battle Creek, Michigan, there is a restaurant, at least I assume it's still there, called Moonraker. And its logo, it says Moonraker, but instead of a shuttle orbiting the word Moonraker, it has a martini glass orbiting.
Oh.
I have stopped there on occasion. It's really more of a sports bar when I went there, but there was like this little James Bond display at the back. So
that's cool.
That's funny.
All right, so the movie inspires all kinds of things in real life. It's kind of cool, and this is a pretty cool poster too. This is the last one we're going to do, and you see a lot of stuff happening in this poster, including the shuttles flying around, unloading astronauts, and all kinds of stuff here. So pretty cool. All right.
Yeah, and I will jump in here really quick, Bill. I just looked it up. As of October 11th, that restaurant still exists.
All right.
All right.
All right. So I think that we've covered all of the main posters now. So, Dan, why don't you wrap us up here?
All right. Hey, thanks for diving deep with us today into the 1970s posters from the James Bond movies. We have seen a lot of transitions in the 1970s posters as we covered Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, The Man with the Golden Gun, The Spy Who Loved Me, and lastly, Moonraker.
Yeah, and a special thank you to you, Bill Koenig of the Spy Command.
Yes, thanks.
Yeah, we appreciate you joining us, you providing us such great insight. And I want to kind of wrap this of giving you a chance to, is there anything else about the posters from the 70s that we didn't jump on already?
Just this more of a footnote. After Moonraker came out, there was yet another poster, because Moonraker had a pretty long run in theaters. It wasn't like today where they yank them to get it on a streaming service. So it was like they added additional elements. Oh, remember in Moonraker, there's that glider thing,
Yeah.
so there was an image of Bond on the glider in addition to all the space stuff and other little scenes. So so there was it was like a post-release poster, I guess you'd call it. For aimed at people wanting to see it for the second, third, or fourth time.
Awesome.
So,
Kind of cool. All right.
Well, again, thanks again, Bill, for being here. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah.
well, thanks for having me. I appreciate being invited.
Yeah, it's great to see you again there, Bill. All right, that's a wrap. This has been Dan.
And Tom.
Check out our website, spymovienavigator.com, and subscribe to our podcast show right now, Cracking the Code of Spy Movies. Thanks for spending time with us. We appreciate it. Thanks.